And now, welcome back to the Friends Validator Show. I'm your host, Juri Maibaum, and if this is your first rodeo, this is a show that brings together crypto pioneers, exciting projects, and a thriving community. And we are once again live here at ETHDenver. It's the last day of ETHDenver, actually. We are about to fly out and, go back to office. But last interview at ETHDenver is with Bowen, who is the co-founder of Fairblock, a brand new blockchain that's about to launch. It's a modular blockchain using the Cosmos SDK, but with privacy embedded from the get go. So there are super exciting things that we will touch base on today. But let me introduce you to my fantastic guest, Bowen from Fairblock. How are you doing, Bowen?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine. How has Denver treated you so far?
It's been good, pretty exhausting, but I think a lot of good people to meet here, good conversations to be had.
Yeah, can totally agree on that. Flying out tonight as well. Really exhausted now. But yeah, I mean, crypto is booming. That's my biggest takeaway from Denver. Everyone is optimistic. But before we dive deeper into all of the details, let's talk a little bit about yourself. So, can you introduce yourself quickly? Talk about your background and how you entered that tree and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Bowen, co-founder at Fairblock. Um, I was sort of trained in AI deep learning stuff in school, so did my undergrad and master's at Waterloo, and focused on machine learning, deep learning. Been in crypto since like 2018 or so. Did sort of trading in like the centralized exchanges, but then moved on to like on-chain MEV searching on Solana and various L2s. Um, Worked at like a venture studio firm for about a year and a half, and then joined Fairblock full time.
Cool. And we had a small conversation prior to this interview. And I think your background as an MEV researcher also breaks down an example very well what Fairblock could change. So again, Fairblock is a Cosmos SDK chain that is about to launch, modular stack, and privacy embedded. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the MEV aspect, what's possible with this privacy embedded decryption to basically give more power to the user, like maybe in the context of MEV, because I think, yeah, this is a very good example right here.
Yeah, I think when we first started Fairblock, the main goal was focused on like bad MEV prevention or preventing like front running or sandwich attacks. How sandwich attacks works are a user sets like makes a swap on Uniswap, let's say, and there's some like slippage tolerance. And what searchers can come in and do is they can manipulate the pool so that basically a user gets exploited for like the max slippage possible, and the MEV searcher captures sort of that spread in between as profit at the expense of the user. Um, how Fairblock works is essentially before a user submits the transaction, they encrypt it uh, and then submit the encrypted ciphertext on chain so that it's committed somewhere. Once an ordering has sort of been established and finalized in a block, no one can really manipulate the ordering of the transactions to gain sort of an advantage in exploiting the user. And then only then we release a decryption key, which then can decrypt and execute the user's transaction, and they're ensured that um, they won't be able to get front run.
Yeah, I think to touch base on that, so essentially someone who wants to take advantage of another user via bad MEV, if you want to say, is by getting on-chain information. So if you have the on-chain information, you basically know how to execute the attack essentially. And Fairblock comes in and says, hey, if the user can decide what information will be shared on chain and what information won't be shared on chain, then the attacker has no attacking surface essentially because he can't take that information and use it against the user. Is this like kind of the TLDR for this example?
Yeah, just some minor clarification. Like typically, searchers exploit the mempool or public mempool, which is when transactions are currently pending and not finalized anywhere. Um, so if the transactions are pending but they're encrypted, then no one really has access to the information to manipulate around, and you can be sure that your transaction won't be reordered for a monetary advantage or anything like that.
Cool. Yeah, makes sense. Maybe to go one step further. So now that we know that, like maybe we can talk a little bit about the pitch for Fairblock. So we also talked about this prior to the interview. So you're not a blockchain like many others that want to attract applications to build on top of it. You are playing in a completely different field that I've actually never heard about before. You want that all kinds of applications integrate Fairblock from the get go. So can you talk a little bit about that? You know, what your aim is essentially here.
Yeah, I think like so we have our own Cosmos SDK chain. We call it Fairy Ring. Um, its main purpose is to act like as a decryption key oracle for various other chains that integrate with us or applications that integrate with us. We do support having applications build on top of us through like Cosmosm, so there are smart contracts that people can build. However, that's not really like the main goal. I think right now, even right now, a lot of like liquidity is fragmented across various chains. And if we introduce another L1 and ask people to build on us, that introduces like even further liquidity fragmentation, and it's even more confusing for users to interact with. So what we try to do is we want users to continue using their favorite applications, their favorite app chains, but have this privacy feature enabled for them, so that it's like very seamless for them to have the service. It's seamless for like the application chain to integrate, and then we're sort of just performing the service for these chains.
Yeah, that's something completely new for me. So really excited about this. Maybe to go a little bit further here, you also use so for all of that, it's very important to have a high degree of interoperability enabled. So you don't want to rely on token bridges for these kinds of integrations. Can you talk a little bit about what role IBC plays in this scenario, so that you are able to communicate to all kinds of blockchains and app chains out there that are also IBC enabled?
Um, because we are a Cosmos SDK L1, IBC sort of we take for granted, and you can connect with any other IBC enabled chain very easily. There is like a problem with us relaying decryption keys over IBC in the sense that the process is currently like a bit slow. So there's like a latency element involved where we only use IBC for certain things, but not all things. In the case of the decryption key relaying, we're starting with a sort of permissioned relayer that the only role is to listen to our chain for a decryption key, and as soon as they receive it, send it through to the other chain, not via IBC, but via transaction. Um, and this way, we can sort of offset like maybe the 2 or 3 block IBC delay from IBC. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, totally makes sense. And now another thing that's very important to talk about at Fairblock is modularity. You are a modular blockchain. Everyone is talking about modularity right now. I think there have been like, I don't know, 20 modular days here in Denver throughout the past couple of days. So, like, can you talk a little bit more about your modular stack and yeah, where you find yourself in this field of all of the different modular blockchains that are currently up and running or about to launch?
Yeah, I mean, we try to like keep the integration partners in mind. So when we developed this, we wanted to make integration as seamless as possible, and right now we're able to do that via just like a Cosmos SDK module that other L1s can integrate with. So I did like a workshop a few days ago on how easy it is to bring our module over to their chain, and it ended up being like maybe 10 or 11 lines of code that needed it to be changed. So like the integration process is very easy for an app chain to have Fairblock. We call it like the PEP module, or like pre-execution privacy module, enabled on their chain. Um, I think there's another, I want to say like modular component to it where right now we have threshold identity-based encryption as like the tool that we're using for Fairblock. However, in the future, we do plan on supporting like threshold FHE or like witness encryption, um, and we're actively doing research on that so that applications or developers can sort of choose exactly which sort of cryptographic tool that they wish to leverage, and along with the associated like trade-offs and security benefits for each of them.
Nice. Maybe to go back to the very beginning, you said, okay, your goal is to integrate a lot of those applications and chains, and you don't want the user to experience some changes. It's like, just, hey, I just use the application that I've used for the past couple of months or even years, and now you go ahead and say, hey, we provide an integration for your user to make the user experience even better in terms of privacy and decryption. So my question now is, like, what are some partnerships that have been going on for now? Like, are there any integrations? Yeah, up to come from the get go, because testnet is still ahead for you guys. So will there be any integration starting from mainnet launch directly, or how will this play out?
I think we've been talking to a lot of different Cosmos L1s. So like Stargaze, um, we're working closely with them on like sealed bid auctions for their NFT marketplace. I think that was announced last Cosmoverse in Istanbul. Recently announced like a partnership with Nibiru to work together. We're also fairly close with like the Skip team, and they've been quite helpful in like helping us think through some sort of concepts that we had trouble with on our chain, and they've been extremely helpful there. Celestia team is also fairly close with us, as well as like Rollkit. We've been active in like the government or in the forums about like encrypted shared sequencer a while back for Celestia and Rollkit in general. We're also like proof of concept stuff with Osmosis. So like things like encrypted limit orders where uh, you only reveal the limit order price, however, not the size, and that would prevent users from getting potentially exploited via just like changing, similar to like a sandwich attack where people purposely push the price down to trigger your limit order. Um, so yeah, these are a few things that we're working on. We're also like looking to work with EVM chains in general. So we also have like a proof of concept for bringing this pre-execution privacy over to Arbitrum. Their recent like EVM Plus and Stylus, um, I guess, feature makes it very feasible to have our decryption on chain, which is like a very new and interesting idea. I don't think a lot of people have explored.
Yeah, you're definitely pioneering this field right here. So very, very excited about your guys' launch. Maybe before we talk about testnet, mainnet, and stuff like that, I want to, go back a little bit and talk about the philosophical approach right here. So privacy is something, I would say, in today's days of the internet, so specifically Gen Z or millennials, I don't I don't believe that a lot of them care about privacy too much until it affects them. So if you look around what people post on Instagram, on TikTok, where they are, when they are on vacation, when they come back from vacation, credit card information, all of these things, they share a lot of these information without hesitating, without thinking twice. And now we see people like you kind of trying to integrate this so that Web3 is yeah, is prepared from the very beginning for like the masses. So when the masses come, all of that is like all of the interactions that people make in Web3 are already like privacy preserved. So can you like talk a little bit about privacy in crypto in general, like highlight the necessity for it, because as we all know, everything is transparent on the blockchain forever, kind of. So can you talk a little bit about the necessity of having privacy inserted from the get-go, and what's your take on this? That users not directly care about privacy. I think they prioritize user experience as of now. But yeah, maybe there's privacy aspect under the hood. So is this like kind of the approach you're doing, and what are your thoughts on generally privacy in crypto?
Yeah, I think like right now people have a very like an existing understanding of what privacy is, and whenever people hear the word privacy, they instantly think like Tornado Cash or Zcash or
Monero.
Monero. Yeah, and these are usually associated with like illegal activity. However, I think what we're trying to offer is like pre-execution privacy or like pre-transaction privacy, in the sense that uh, we are still making data available once it's decrypted and it's like public and it's transparent. It's just like we won't allow users to get exploited before that happens. To answer your question about like bringing over Web 2 to Web 3 adoption, I think in Web 2, the key point is that there is a trust element. For example, you're trusting Google or you're trusting Facebook with the information and not to leak your information. However, there are examples with like the Equifax hack a while back that all this personal information was sort of revealed to everyone or sort of taken advantage of. In Web3, one of the main sort of, I guess, ideals is decentralization. So no centralized party has this. However, with decentralization comes like there's no trusted party anymore that you can just trust to have your data. So you need to come up with new ideas to sort of preserve that underlying privacy, because privacy in Web 2 right now is sort of taken for granted because one entity sort of manages it all. But once you decentralize and a lot of entities are managing it, then um, you can't really trust everyone to be as good as they say they are, right?
Yeah, and this is kind of where Fairblocks come into play, so that you say, okay, you can't trust all of the applications you interact with, but you can just trust that the infrastructure has privacy embedded from the get-go. So in an ideal Fairblock world, essentially all major applications are integrated, and as long as you know, hey, Fairblock is integrated, it's kind of the golden check mark, the verification that yeah, everything, like all of the data that is being shared while interacting with a decentralized application is decrypted. Is this like kind of the conclusion?
Yeah, like maybe to give you an example of where this might be like applicable once there's maybe more Web3 adoption, like you can do some really cool things with like on-chain legal contracts, let's say, where I me and you sort of both encrypt our contract and put it on chain. No one right now has access to read it. No one knows what the contents are. However, like suppose you or I either breach the contract, right? Now I can decrypt the data on chain. It's transparent to everyone, and then your reputation goes down for like not being reliable or like respecting the contract. Let's say. Um, Another one could be like right now. I think a lot of people in important positions have to disclose their like stock selling or whatever ahead of time. And if this was done on blockchain, like people would instantly capitalize it on that if it was public information, right? However, now maybe what you can do is you can sort of commit to this, you're selling stock or you're selling certain stock, however many shares, put that information encrypted on chain, and once that time has been up, you can release it to everyone, and um, that can be sort of decrypted and executed and facilitated through there.
Yeah, I think that was like very helpful to have this example here. So what you're saying here is that not only like the integration here is not only very useful for DeFi activities, but for all kinds of activities. You also mentioned the Stargaze integration. So everywhere where privacy and verification is needed, Fairblock could eventually step in, right?
Yeah, I think like that's also our goal, right? Is that having this sort of privacy preserving layer um, opens up the design space for new applications, uh, like in a very big and meaningful way, right? Um, for example, like sealed bid auctions have been worked on within crypto for a while now, and there are like some great attempts at sealed bid auctions. One example is like commit reveal schemes where people commit to an encrypted bid and then after the auction is over, they reveal it to people. But there are like UX issues in the sense that after the fact, you need to reveal to everyone. However, here it's like very easy. You just encrypt your bid, and once the deadline is up, it's decrypted on chain, and everyone uh, can see the results, and the auction can be sort of settled on chain afterwards. So like things like this are things that we're thinking about where having this sort of layer on top, one makes like making applications very easy, and you can also do a lot more cool things with it, like the legal and stuff that I said, which I don't think is being done right now.
Yeah, I also don't have an application right now in mind in that field. So yeah, this is a new land definitely that you guys are pioneering here. Now let's go a little bit closer to what happens next. So we also talked about this prior to this interview. So testnet is about to take place very very soon. Yeah. So what are your anticipated targets here for testnet launch, mainnet launch, and so on?
Yeah, we're launching testnet March 6th. Like fingers crossed, everything goes well, but there's bound to be hiccups on any sort of launch. I think the goal of the testnet is to one test out integrations with other applications, and two is also to test like the our own infrastructure and the potential demand that we might have. Um, we want to be able to have like a slow rollout of onboarding new validators and eventually make the process become fully permissionless. Right now, it's like a proof of authority approach where there is no like proof of stake or a stake weighted thing, but eventually that's something that we're like researching as well, is having like weighted key sharing or um, yeah, weighted key sharing and like weighted threshold decryption. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So lots of exciting stuff is happening on your end. So what's a good way for people to learn more about Fairblock, reach out to you if they want to integrate you guys or want to join testnet? What are some links people should follow?
Yeah, join our Twitter. I think it's fair underscore block. And then also we have an active Discord community as well. We have an ongoing like meme competition in which users can sort of play around with the whole fairy concept and like fairy ring. We think it's like a fun way to engage with the community, interact with them. If you're interested in like participating in the testnet, we're like evaluating new validators on like a rolling basis. So future upgrades to the chain, we will probably onboard more and more people as it goes.
Nice. You heard it here first, guys. And yeah, feel free to follow Fairblock, follow the journey, this very new journey, this pioneering journey that the team is following here. Bowen, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for answering all of my questions. And yeah, hope to see you very, very soon on this show, maybe prior to mainnet launch or something.
Yeah,
And yeah, safe travels back home.
yeah. Thanks for your time. Yeah.